But you also have your own systems and processes in place to train these yorCMO franchisees, right? So they still have to follow your system. What does the training and support look like for those franchisees?
Sure. So yeah, we have a very robust framework. We like calling it a framework because we want the CMOs was they get in to work with the clients to think on behalf of the client, but we want to follow a best practice framework. And so we've been building out since before franchising a back office system we call Bob, and Bob is our learning management system, and it has every single step of our process documented and who does what. Does the CMO, when we kick off a new client, the CMO does this, the marketing coordinator that is here to help support the CMO, we provide that to the CMOs, does this thing. And so everybody knows, it's like a playbook. Everybody knows each step. Every form is in there, every document is in there, from literally pitching a deal to signing something in DocuSign, all the way through the process. Everything is documented in there in Bob. And so it's an incredible framework all the way through those 6 fundamentals and processes we talked about.
Does technology play a huge role in the business then as a framework?
It does. We are heavily into using Microsoft Teams and 365 to run our systems. Every client has a Microsoft team with a project plan that we record every video so the clients can see transcripts and all this stuff from meetings, and it's very ingrained into it. And then with AI and generative AI more specifically, like ChatGPT, that type of thing is coming on very quickly. And whether it's using that type of technology to match clients and CMOs together internally, whether it's for client marketing, or research and data analytics, AI is coming on very, very fast.
That's cool. So I would imagine as a seasoned marketing executive that's interested in this concept, probably one of the first things that come to mind is, well, why can't I just do this on my own? Why should I be part of the yorCMO network, right? What are some of those? What are some of those things that you tell them?
Well, yeah, there's some key components. One is we help them with their sales and marketing. We have a sales and marketing team that's always out driving leads to bring into the business for our CMOs. We're also teaching them how to network and grow their network like they've never before. Many of them are isolated in the companies they've worked with before. They've not done a great job of networking and building a pool of people that can refer clients to them and helping them really build that out. They just don't know how to do it. The other part is that framework. They come in and they're like, oh, I got to create my own website. I got my own logo. I need my own business cards. Oh, I don't even know how to write a contract. And then they're spending so much time on all this stuff. They can immediately just plug in and get started. And then the last part is our marketing coordinators, the kind of the unsung heroes of the group. Those folks, along with Molly, who leads up that and CMO coaching, helps our CMOs with a lot of the detail work so that they can stay higher level and take on more clients because they're staying more strategic. And the reality is, if you're out on your own, hanging your own shingle, trying to have that person, you can, but you're paying them full time, whether you have any client work or not. And if you just try to bring them in on a piecemeal basis, by the time you get done explaining the project to them and all this, even if they're available, you could have just done it yourself. But then that gets in this tempest of doing tactical work all by yourself rather than being strategic. So having this team of marketing coordinators ready to jump into every product from day one, the CMOs always have a set of resources to lean on. And it's an incredible benefit to them. Probably one of the things they enjoy most.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage that tactically I am covered. I have folks in the back office or back at the home office that are going to help support my growth, that I'm not doing all the tactical work. That is great. So you've been franchising since 2018, is that right?
That's correct.
And so what's been your biggest surprise since you started franchising?
The biggest surprise and probably my biggest frustration is all of the state regulations. I always knew there was 14 states and all that kind of stuff because I'd been around franchising before. But when it comes to the accounting side and the tax side and what's Nexus and not Nexus, it's about as clear as mud, and you can line 10 people up and get 44 opinions. And so knowing exactly what to do, when to do it, to stay in the good graces of all the states and the rules and all that kind of stuff, I'm stunned at the complexity of it.
Right. And you didn't really make it easy for yourself either by having territories that are based on industry, not territories, right? So I would imagine some of the state regulators are probably like, okay, how does this thing work, right? How are you awarding franchises, right? But it makes sense to you from the business perspective.
Right. Yeah, it is actually this whole concept, because we're one of the early professional service franchises in the country from this perspective, in the fractional world. So the attorneys struggled with, oh my gosh, we got to strip out all this location-based stuff out of the FDD and all the agreements. And that kind of really threw them for a loop. Then sent it into the registration states. They were looking at it and it was confusing to them. They did have a lot of questions. And then the taxing authority, and licensing and those types of things. Yeah, it also threw them for a loop. Because, for example, we've got a CMO in Pittsburgh who's got a really great client. He's doing a really nice business with them. They're in Houston. So his business isn't anywhere near his. He has no physical location except his home office. And so this is just really churning the state regulators into a real fit, which, I guess if you're a pioneer, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So since franchises are awarded by industry, how big is big? Like, what's your vision overall in terms of the number of franchisees across the U.S.?
Our target is in the next 3 years is to have about 100 franchisees. We believe we can get much, much larger than that because CMOs typically only take on 2 to 3 clients at a time before they start hitting capacity. And you also have CMOs where it really kind of another interesting factor is not every one of our CMOs wants a full, robust practice. We have somebody who's partially retired and she just wants specific types of projects. And she's happy as all get out working 10 hours a week. Where we have others who want to work 60 hours a week because I don't know, they're crazy. They're crazy. They want that punishment too much, that much work. And they don't work that much, but they work a lot. And so part of our mantra is we want the perfect practice. And so every one of our CMOs is unique. And so we really go back and look at our CMO matrix and understand what industries do we have coverage, but what's our capacity in those industries based on how much work our CMOs want to do. And it's really a unique franchise because it's not just always pushing every CMO to the wall for additional revenue. It's fitting their lifestyle, what's right for them. And it might be 1 client, it might be 4, anywhere in between.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.